Hey everyone, this is Dan Longman, NFM Lending, and I am once again joined by Dina with Dewey Insurance. Dina is one of our insurance gurus. We've been recommending Dina for a long time. Dina, I think we're what, 10 plus years?
Oh yeah, has to be.
It has to be, right? That just showed our age. But
Yeah.
anyway, insurance has been a hot topic, continues to be a hot topic, especially in the state of Florida. Dina's been kind enough to join us for a few times over the years, but I thought it was relevant to bring her back in since we are seeing some changes out there, and thought this would be a good time to just kind of get up to speed with what's happening in the insurance world. So, Dina, let's start off here. Let's talk a little bit about, like, as far as the insurance market right now, as far as maybe carriers that are, whether they're in or out of the state of Florida, and what are you seeing with premiums? I know that's what is on everyone's mind as far as the cost of the policies.
Yes. So far, we haven't seen any rate changes drastically that'll affect the premiums. What we have seen is a lot of insurance companies loosening up and writing down, especially here in South Florida. So what that means is the preferred companies that have a little lower rates than Citizens or some of the other companies are writing here in the Tri-County and in the whole state. So that helps lower the rates all along.
Perfect. And why do you think some have come back? Because I think like last year when we did this, right, we had some exiting Florida. So
Yes.
what do you think the reason is that some of these companies have come back or new ones have emerged?
The majority reason is the legislative changes that happened about a year and a half, 2 years ago now. Now we're starting to see the effects of that. And I know we spoke last year about that. We didn't quite see them last year, but this year we're starting to see them. And by seeing more insurance companies actually forming and writing in Florida, and the ones that weren't writing before starting to have more capacity to write as well.
Awesome. And is it safe to say, so the more that come in, maybe there's a little more competition, so that's what will bring premiums down? The more
Absolutely.
the more you have here? Okay, cool. And are we nervous at all, like with hurricane season around the corner? Like, can some of
We're
these
always nervous with hurricane season. We
for
always kind of hold our breath. But the
sure?
legislative changes have made a big difference in the state all along. The West Coast is still having challenges because of the storms that went through there in the past few years. So they're starting to see rates increase, where we're starting to see them kind of level out. But overall, we're optimistic.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, that's welcoming news. You're right. Compared to last year, it's nice to see more coming in. I do feel for the West Coast, yeah, especially if those premiums are going up. But maybe this will all just take a little bit more time, and I'm sure if we can escape a hurricane season without any major storms, that would be nice. And real quick, so let me just ask you about the legislative like impact as far as if you could just touch on what were those changes again, or just highlight a few of them that went into effect that we're now seeing the benefits of.
The legislative changes were the two-way attorney's fees, and what that means is that each party pays their own fees, so that the insurance company doesn't have to take the burden of all those fees on themselves.
Gotcha. Okay. And what another big one I remember you told me last year, and it kind of stuck out, is the assignment of benefits. Was
Correct.
that like a big thing? If you don't mind just touching on that as well.
Yes, the assignment of benefits was eliminated, which was part of the bill, which helps tremendously as far as claims, so that the insurance companies and the customers work more closely together instead of having outside parties and attorneys run up fees.
Got it. Okay. So real quick, I just want to paint a scenario for someone because I've literally heard this happen to people where they get a knock on the door, storm passes, right? They get a knock on the door and maybe they didn't even have any roof damage. And some adjuster, whoever it is, says, "Hey, I can get you a new roof." And
Yes.
the person's like, "Oh, well, I don't, didn't have any damage, but I don't really want to go through all the legwork of having to do all this." And they're like, "No, I'll take care of it for you," right? Like they would assign it over to this person, and then that person would turn a $40,000 roof maybe into a $150,000 lawsuit. Is that
Yep.
kind of what?
That's exactly the scenario that we're talking about. Yep. You nailed it.
Okay. But by eliminating that, now I can't assign it to that person. If I want to go for that litigation and new roof, I got to do it myself, right? Like
You have to
that's
pay your own attorney's fees. Each party pays their own.
got it. They pay their own attorney's fee. Okay, perfect. So yeah, that seems like a big deal. And wasn't it something crazy where like 80% or 70% of litigation cases in the country happen here in Florida?
That's correct. Yep. So we had to do something because the insurance companies couldn't bear that cost. Even if you paid your policies at 100%, if you have to on top of that put $100,000 worth of attorney's fees on top of those claims times thousands of claims, it just wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, no doubt. That's crazy. Okay, so let's move on. I know we talked about a little bit about the disparity between East and West Coast, but let's talk about flood because I know I personally have experienced this with customers down here where they changed the flood maps at the end of July of last year, July 31st, 2024. So just touch on that a little bit. Was how much of Broward County, or even if was it most of Florida? I don't really know what changed, but how much of that was impacted? Like how many places were now that weren't in a flood zone that are now in a flood zone?
There was hundreds of thousands in South Broward alone. It was Broward County that the map changes were last year. West Palm Beach is this year, so there were some changes in West Palm Beach as well. So FEMA is constantly revising the maps. So and it takes about 5 to 10 years for them to actually change them. So we're kind of going back to where we were 10 years ago. A lot of people were taken out of flood zones. Now they're being put back in required flood zones. So that's making the difference.
Okay. And people have asked me this, so I want to ask you, the expert. Are I know flood is based on elevation, right? Like where your property sits. So if you weren't in a flood zone and now you are, is your property sinking? Or is it just more because of weather and just, statistics now and, maybe rising flood water or rainwater, whatever it is, storm water, that more places are just susceptible now because of past storms or?
Yes. So basically, the flood rating is based on the elevation, but the flood zone is not. So what they do is they look and see how the water sits over a period of time, and that shows whether or not you're more susceptible to flood. So it doesn't
Got it.
necessarily have to do with your property level changing. That's just the rating as far as the elevation goes. It's the history of the flooding. So how does this neighborhood flood compared to the last 5, 10, 100 years?
Ah, got it. Okay. All right. So that's a big deal, right? Because you just said that. I mean, Broward went into effect last year. Now Palm Beach is. So yeah,
The,
people got to be aware. They might literally get a notice that, hey, you might not have been in a flood zone for 10, 15 years, but now you are.
Yeah, and we had a lot of customers last year that the mortgage company told them later, so then they got forced place coverage. So we tried to be proactive on it, reach out to our customers that changed their zones to tell them, hey, this is coming, so we could get a policy in effect. Because if they missed the letter that the lender sent or something like that, then they got a forced place policy, and that's 3 times the amount of the regular policy.
Got it. Okay. And this will segue nice into condos I want to talk about now because just real quick to finish off the flood here, we've seen several buildings that let's say their insurance renewed in June, but yet the flood policy went into effect in July. So it hasn't even been a full year yet, right? So some of them, they don't have, some of these condo buildings don't even have flood, and now they're in a flood policy because they didn't add it into their budget yet for whatever reason. So we're starting to see that be a problem on a couple condo buildings. But what are some issues you're seeing right now just with condos when it comes to insurance?
Basically capacity. A lot of insurance companies do not underwrite the condos, and a lot of the reason is water claims. So if you have water in your condo that goes to another unit, things like that, other people have to use their insurance. So even if it's not necessarily your fault, you could have water coming from your ceiling, and your insurance company is going to pay. So and some of the changes in the loss assessment with the condos, it's just the insurance companies are just staying away from it.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I know it's obviously the ones people are staying away, and then other premiums have skyrocketed, especially on master policies. We've seen it go up, and the problem we run into from the lending side is what these HOAs are doing to offset the higher costs. Is they're like, well, where can we kind of like cut? Where can we cut and have some savings? And they're increasing those deductibles, right? They're taking the normal standard 5% deductible, which is what Fannie and Freddie require, and they're upping those to 7.5, 10% deductibles, which saves money, right? But what the unintended consequence of that is now they've eliminated anyone in there from getting a traditional loan.
Yeah, and we've
So,
actually seen some associations just exclude wind altogether.
which is
Which if,
crazy, right?
if that happens, there's no way you can get a loan on a unit. It's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I saw that on a property down in Miami Beach that they excluded the wind up for renewal. And I think some people have this delusion of like, oh, well, you can just get like a non-traditional loan. I'm like, a lot of lenders, even non-traditional, are not crazy about lending on a property that doesn't have wind or flood or some of these, major insurance, coverages you should have.
Especially close to the coast.
Exactly. Yeah. Which we're almost all down here
Yeah.
close to we're close to the coast.
True.
So, all right. Well, yeah, condos continue to be a struggle. And yeah, I don't know really how they solve that problem. I know they're dealing with the inspection reports, right, too. So it's like a double whammy. I feel like they're dealing with the high insurance costs, but then they're also going through their 40-year inspections and they're getting hit with renovations and restorations that they have to do. So it's becoming a real problem for condos down here.
Yes, and all of that cost goes to the unit owner.
Absolutely. Yeah. Special assessments, and some of them can be pretty huge.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I want to end this on a positive note. No, we got a little negative there with the condos, but so some things you mentioned, just to recap, like people, more insurance carriers coming back in, which is great. New ones emerging. Hopefully that'll bring down premiums. But what are some things that, the average homeowner out there, if they just want to try to get their policy down, what are some things they can do to the property that would lower their premiums? And if you can start with like the biggest impact, like that would have the most bang for their buck.
Okay. The two biggest impacts would be a newer roof and or impacts or hurricane shutters on all openings. Those two have the greatest impact. The newer roof opens up more capacity for different companies. They like the newer roofs, so you can get a preferred company. And then the impact or the shutters, that will help the actual rate. So those two things are the biggest items.
And real quick on the roof, like, is there a difference between someone that has a brand new roof and someone that has a roof that's maybe 8 to 10 years old? Is the
Yes, once you get past 5 years, then it's a
Mm.
little different. You still have the capacity, but you do get it. Some companies offer a newer roof credit rate, which will impact the premium as well.
Okay. And is it safe to say that it really drops off? Like maybe you don't get any credit or it becomes more pricey when it's over 15 years? Is that kind of,
Yes, yes,
that's the
even on a
cutoff?
tile roof.
Okay. So 15 is the cutoff. Okay. Doesn't mean it's end of life. It just means you're not going to get like any
Correct.
credit. Okay. All right.
Yes.
I don't want people out there with a 16-year-old roof running
Yeah.
trying to replace it.
Right, exactly.
Anything else other than those two big items, the like storm shutters and roof? Are
Those
those
are the two that affect the premium the most. But
okay?
as far as eligibility, I would say just keeping your property updated water, hot water heater, AC, things like that, because now the insurance companies are being more picky about those things. So as long as you keep those in good condition and or newer, that helps as well.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, and last, I have just a question here for you. Gonna kind of just throw you a curveball, put you on the spot, because we've seen this happen, and I don't know if it's a myth or not, but let's say I have a perfect insurance, record. I've never filed a claim, just everything's great, right? I've owned homes for 20, 30 years. But then I go to buy a house, and unbeknownst to me, that house had a claim on it. The previous owner filed a claim, or let's say it got struck by lightning, because I did have that happen once. Is it true that my premium is going to be higher just because there's a claim on that house? Or is that
Your
not true?
premium may not be higher, but it may be what company you can qualify for. So a lot
Ah,
of companies will not take a claim for a customer or a home. So if you have zero claims and you're buying a house that has a claim, that preferred company may not insure you.
got it. Okay. Just because that home had a claim on it.
Correct.
Got
Yes.
it. Okay. That's good to know. That is good to know. All right. Well, Dina, awesome. I really appreciate your time. This was super helpful. I can probably speak for my audience out there. I know they'll find it helpful too. I promise to have you back sooner next time because I think insurance and taxes, these things are constantly on people's minds. So
Anytime.
thank you for educating us.
Thank you.